Anyway. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Project Gen X podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alan Smith, along with...
I am Big Dave.
And today we are going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts, especially this time of year, and that is back to school, not the movie.
I was actually looking for the theme song for the movie on Spotify.
Well, you know, the thing is, talking about back to school, it was Oingo Boingo, Dead Man's Party.
Yeah.
This in the very first of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there actually is a song, Back to School, isn't there, or something?
I think so. Yeah.
But more importantly, it's the Oingo Boingo song. So it's a...
Well, near and dear to some people's hearts. Right now, it's a headache for me.
For you, yeah, well...
Because I work for a college.
Yes. We can get into... We're going to... In one of our previous episodes, I was telling some stories about being in high school, about being there, but not really being there, especially my senior year. Back to school, I don't know how... We'll get into this a little bit, you know, both of us, but for me anyway, when I was a kid, I dreaded it like everything. I mean, it was just... And I'm talking about like elementary school. And it wasn't because I was picked on at school or any of that kind of stuff. It's like, I just didn't like going to school is what it came down to.
Yeah.
But I found when I was, I guess, probably in junior high school, because I made a couple of really good friends, you know, when I was like sixth grade or something. One of them was had been there for a couple of years, but one of his friends came to school there as well. And the three of us were kind of inseparable for a couple of years, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was one of those things of I would get to hang out with them. And so it kind of became more of a, oh, it's fun to be at school when I don't have to actually do schoolwork.
Yeah.
Which pretty much set the
tone for the rest
of my career, including college. So school's a lot of fun to be there as long as I haven't got to go to class. So.
Yeah, you made me skip a bunch of classes in college.
I didn't make anybody do anything. All I did was merely suggest, hey, why don't we go do this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. It's
Bad influence. Bad influence.
But yeah, back to school, man. And I still say this, at 40, right now as we're sitting here at 46 years old.
Yeah.
Every year in early mid part to the mid part of August, I start feeling like I better be getting ready to go back to school.
Yeah.
Even now. I mean, I've been out of college for 20-ish years, and I've been out of high school for 30 almost, you know, and it's kind of one of those things that I'm like, wow, why do I still feel like it's time to go back to school? Now, granted, I have kids now, so that has been a thing for a while, you know. Like, you know, my son just started back. Of course, you know, with COVID and all that stuff, we're in a virtual situation now that I'm not real happy about.
Let's get into that a little bit. So we've got the COVID-19 thing going on.
Yeah.
And City of Nashville is still on modified lockdown.
And we're in phase phase 2. We had made it to phase 3, and then they dialed it back, and so now we're in what they're calling modified phase 2, which is complete crap in my opinion. But
a lot of school systems are still trying to figure out what they're doing, and a lot of them are going back full virtual.
And some of them have.
We're talking Zoom and Teams, and
some of them have postponed.
Yeah,
I mean, like they're. Oh, look, Carly decided to come in here. Now we got both dogs, okay?
Woo!
Carly's like, I want to go back to school. It's like, so it was one of those things that, like, several school systems, you know, counties and stuff have just postponed of, like, okay, well, we're going to push back a week or two or something and see kind of where we are. In Metro Davidson County, where I live, they have gone back full virtual.
Full virtual.
And it's not... My son started first grade this year. It's like herding cats to try to get a 6-year-old to sit and look at a screen that's not the iPad or the Switch. To sit and sit there and listen and watch somebody
and try to participate.
It's just it is a mess like you wouldn't believe. So,
but with me being in the college system, colleges are still trying to figure out what they're going to do. Whether it's going to be full virtual or a hybrid or some form thereof.
I know.
And being in the IT department, I'm in the middle of trying to figure out how we're going to deal with that in the classrooms.
I know one local university, had announced that they were going back full classroom, but I don't know if they walked that back or not. because I know there's still some, luckily with the college, I know it doesn't seem like it, but at least with you guys, you've still got a little bit of time between now and then.
Let's see here. I can tell you exactly when the first day of class is, honestly.
But, like I said, starting the very 1st of August, now the kids went back to school, and I know college starts a couple weeks after that. And
of course it's going to do this to me right now. Anyway, what's the week after the 17th?
The 23rd. Let's see. Let's see. The 17th's what, Friday?
No, 17th's a Monday.
Yeah, it is. Sunday and Monday, so it would be the 24th.
So that's first day of classes.
Okay, so the week before Labor Day.
The week before Labor Day.
Yeah.
That's the way it usually runs. We get the week before Labor Day.
And then you take the Labor Day off and then come back, Yeah. And okay. So you're 3 weeks out, basically.
Yeah.
2.5 weeks out.
And I've got a load of installs I've got to do in classrooms the week right before classes to deal with some of the virtual stuff.
Okay.
So I'm kind of swamped right now.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I'm a little buried under it.
I would imagine so.
Okay.
But
for me, it was kind of a mixed bag because some summers we've moved.
Right.
And it's all starting new schools in new places. And what I always looked forward to was the new stuff. The new notebooks and the new trapper keepers and the new clothes and
I always hated getting new clothes. I hated it. Hated it with a passion.
I liked it, but at the same time, I somewhat dreaded it because let's be honest, my mom didn't have a real great fashion sense.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And believe me, I wound up wearing a lot of stuff that I would not have chosen for myself.
Tough skins. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say.
And just miserable. I hated it every year going school shopping. Now I agreed with you. I liked the trapper keepers and the the notebooks and stuff like that.
I could never wait to see what the new batch of trapper keepers looked like.
I know. And it was just
is there going to be a new Star Wars this year?
Yeah, or pens and pencils and all that kind of weird that stuff that you don't think these days, especially as adults, you don't think much about it. But back then, man, that was just like a big thing. Book bags and all that kind of backpacks or whatever, and that was always something. It's been well established that you moved around a lot, and and that what's the word I'm looking for? So your friend base was very liquid as far as who you knew and who you didn't, and all that kind of stuff. I went to the same school from first grade all the way through.
Yeah.
I went to a private school. I mean, from first through 12th. I mean, I went all the way through. There were only a handful of us that started off together in first grade that made it all the way to graduation.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I think there was 7 or 8 of us or something like that made it all the way through. None of us really ran around in the same crowds. We were all kind of whatever. We knew it was more of we had time together than anything else,
Yeah. Which was kind of like
it's kind of school, yeah. But it was one of those things that in a pre-internet and especially a pre-social media world, there were a lot of times you had no idea if you were going to see your even going to the same school. If you were going to see your friends the next year, if they decided, they decided to go to a different school or any number of things, you know, and you didn't keep in touch as much because you had one of two options. It was either phone calls or writing letters. And I was never a letter writer. And I'll be honest, I was always kind of somebody, and a lot of it was the age of, being a little socially awkward, that kind of stuff of I was not somebody who was going to make phone calls very much, Now, like I said, I did have friends when I got a little older that I would see during the summer. We would always get together a couple of times during the summer, type stuff. But there was at least one, a couple of years where we let out in May and I didn't see him again until August, type stuff. And of course you also, who's in the class? Are my friends in the class with me? Are we going to, this and that and blah, blah, blah. And so I always look forward to going back and seeing my friends.
Yeah.
And you would also meet new people.
Yeah.
Because new people would come in, like, that kind of stuff. And it was just always really cool. Now, another thing that back in the day, again, we're being old here, radio had a lot to do with your social, like the music you listen to.
Radio was everything for me, because some summers that was the only friend I had.
Exactly. And so it was one of those things that, you would kind of get into this batch of songs was released during the summer. These were obviously supposed to be the summer songs. And these batches is somewhere around back to school, there was a batch of songs that would be released that were going to be like the fall songs, and that kind of stuff. So I have like a whole list of songs that remind me of going back to school. That was just cool. Like, no, this feels like back to school to me,
Yeah.
And they're from different eras, of all through the 80s and into the 90s, type stuff. And it was just always, there was something in the air about, some of it was the fall was coming up, we were right there on the cusp of that.
Well, I always knew if school was starting, it's not too long before Halloween gets
exactly,
here.
And there was that also, which was always. And I always really enjoyed the first day of school because it was usually a half day.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of all right, we're going to have this really abbreviated schedule where we're going to go around all the classes and meet everybody and see who's in your classes and blah, blah. And they'll
kind of get an introduction to the teacher and what they're going to be like. And it was usually like on a Friday.
Yeah, something like that.
And then they would have like an in-service or Labor Day or something on Monday.
Right, so. Or sometimes they would do it on Thursday.
Yeah, and have like a 4-day weekend.
Right. It'd be like a half day on Thursday, and then the Friday would be like an in-service type thing, and then you'd come back on Monday, and it was like, okay, here we are.
Yeah.
And so, but that was always fun for me.
Yeah.
Now, once we got into the semester of, this is where I actually have to start doing work.
Same.
That's the part I didn't like so much.
Honestly, because I was in band from about 5th grade on, the other stuff sucked, but I knew somewhere in the day I was going to get a break to be able to go to the band room and play music.
Well, that was when I got involved with football my freshman year. I didn't go through because I actually joined after, like during the season, I became one of the managers for the team. And so it was one of those things that, they were a couple of weeks in because a friend of mine was the manager for the team, and he had gone to football camp with them and, done all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But starting next year was when, I went to football camp and, this and that and, all that kind of stuff. And it was one of those things, it's like football got started like at the very end, like I think it was like July 1st or July 31st was usually like we would go in and, start getting equipment together and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we would go to football camp for a week and then come back, and then it would be, every day. I would be at the school every day all through August, twice, this was 2-a-days. In the morning and in the afternoon.
Yep.
And then school would start and then I would be there in the afternoon, and it was kind of neat, doing that because it was that I was outside all that time, and it moving from hot of the summer into that first day you walk out, you get up that morning and you're like, wow, it feels like fall.
Yeah,
it cooled off. This is nice, and that was always really cool.
Well, for me, it was when we got up into high school, it was band camp. And it was a week. It was usually in August during the hottest part of the season. And first 2 football games, you wouldn't wear those wool uniforms.
Oh no, it was still way too hot.
Yeah,
for that.
And so you're wearing. Everybody had to wear coordinated shorts and a t-shirt and all that to kind of keep the uniform look. But that third football game of the season, usually it had cooled off, and we put the uniform on.
Yep.
And it seemed like by about the third game, things were really starting to gel. Everybody was getting used to each other. Everybody was getting used to playing the music and running the show.
Oh, yeah.
And it started to Friday nights.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Cool Friday nights. And then going out after the game and then having to get up at the butt crack of dawn to get up and get back to the school, get your gear together, load it on the semi-truck, and go over to the field competitions.
I never did any of that, but that was those first, especially that first home football game
Yeah.
back. I mean, even though it wasn't cool, but it was one of those things where, like, as far as like the weather-wise, you know. But it was one of those things where you're like, no, this feels like back to school now. Yeah. Like, this is okay. We got this game. We had pep rally that afternoon usually, and that kind of stuff.
You get that first football game under your belt, and everybody kind of
like, all right,
settles
here we
in.
go.
Yeah.
This is going to be like.
And in Illinois, because I started high school in Illinois, it wasn't they didn't just have field competition.
Right.
They had a parade competition
to
where you would do a parade. All these bands would do this parade in the morning. You would go and eat lunch, and they'd give you a couple hours to kind of rehearse your field show, and then you would go do the field show.
Right.
And then you'd have to go to the award ceremony. So it was a long, long day. And then we got down here, and I was like, what do you mean there's no parade competition?
Yeah, no, not here.
There's no parade competition here? It's just field competition?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was I used to, especially like with football, doing a game on Friday night.
Yeah.
I was usually there later than everybody else.
Yeah.
Me and Baxter, my friend that was the other manager, we were there later than everybody. Like the only people that left after us were the coaches.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Because you had to get all the equipment put together,
make sure everything's there.
Repair stuff.
Exactly. I mean, it was, everything back to where it's supposed to be, make sure all the water bottles were clean, all that kind of, clean everything. Make sure, there's no, the thermoses, like the big water jugs that we had, the Gatorade, all that's poured out, and not just poured out, but cleaned out, and so it's one of those things that when we're back in here Monday, we're good to go again, and so it was one of those situations, and so it was one of those things. You get home now, it wasn't really that late. It was a Friday night on top of it all, so it was kind of I would still be up, I've always been a night owl, and I would usually come home and I'd grab a shower and watch horror movies or something, until I finally fell asleep, or MTV or whatever it was, okay? And then it was the next day, sleep.
No.
I know you didn't get that, but I was like, no, dude, I slept on Saturdays.
Yeah. We always caught crap about being the nerds and not being athletic and all that, but we would support the football team on Friday night and then turn around.
Had to be back up the next morning.
We would go out after the football games and hang out with everybody after the football games, and then turn around and be back up at the butt crack of dawn and go do it all again on Saturday.
I tell you something else about this time of year is that we're not getting it this year, but like county and state fair.
Yeah,
I love a good county fair. I love a good county fair.
It's been a long time since I've been to one.
Yeah, but it was up closer to where you in Robertson County.
Yeah.
Okay. In Springfield, that's what they would have, the Robertson County Fair
every
year. And I have not been in years. But that was always end of August somewhere, right around back to school time, And this was you go up there, and it's what you think. There are blue ribbons given for pigs and cows and
all the livestock stuff,
all
the
that
4-H stuff,
all the 4-H stuff is there.
The cooking competitions, best pie, best preserves,
and of course they would have like all the fair games, and they would also have
they would have the carnival rides come in where you'd have a half rusted roller coaster that's been put together 450 billion times this year.
What is it, the cyclotron or whatever it is that like I just about vomited on the one time I rode it, and I was like, oh God, I'm never going to get off this thing alive.
Yeah, and then there were the truck pulls.
They had mule pulls.
Oh,
and
nice.
They also had the tractor pulls as well.
Tractor pulls.
But they would do like
demolition derby.
They would do all that stuff that you would think of like and I love that stuff.
Yeah,
I love that stuff. And
deep fried stick of butter.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, yeah. Everything is deep fried.
Yeah,
and
if you don't come away from there with the possibility of a coronary, you haven't gone to the county fair.
No joke, and that's
and this year we don't have them.
They're
all canceled because of COVID.
I know. This is a strange year.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I hate to bring this up, but the movie Mad Max was set in 2021.
I know.
And if this is the lead up to what happens.
Yeah, but we're not in Australia either, so it's...
Well, that was Australia. Who knows what happened in the U.S.?
Well, I think that was kind of the whole thing with that movie, is that they were kind of the last outpost of the apocalypse has in the first movie, Mad Max, the apocalypse has happened, but it hasn't quite reached Australia yet.
Yeah.
Now, by the time you get to the Road Warrior, full on.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, that's a nice little one. Again, we can't do one of these episodes without getting off on tangents at all.
I will derail the show in a heartbeat.
I will tell you something that I always associate with back to school, and it's something I genuinely miss.
Okay.
Not because it doesn't happen anymore, but because it's not for me any longer.
Okay.
Is the MTV Video Music Awards.
Yeah.
Okay. Generally, what would happen when we were coming up, they would air in late August.
Sometimes early September. Depends.
It kind of depends. Maybe it was early September. It was one of those things that was right around back to school.
Yeah.
They happened on a Thursday night. They did not happen on a weekend night like they do now. They were not filmed like they are now.
Oh, no, they were live.
They were live. Well, when I say filmed, I mean they were video tape. Like, so you felt like it didn't. The way that they've been doing the presentation on the VMAs for years now is that they've been showing it on like in film stock, where it's like almost like you're watching a movie or a television show or something. Whereas when we were watching it, it was like a live experience. You know, like it was something you felt like you were there more. But that was the thing; it would happen on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Friday morning, everybody was talking about the performances that happened the night before, and there were some classic performances that happened back then. I'm sure there are now for the younger
pop
set.
Guy climbing the palm tree.
No, you went. That was pretty new. That was in the early 2000s, though. No, I'm thinking like.
You're thinking when they had the big M as the podium.
I'm thinking like Metallica,
Man.
like playing Enter Sandman. That was my senior year of high school, and that was like a huge thing.
And then losing to Jethro Tull.
No, that was in '89, and that was the American Music Awards. That was not the VMAs.
Sorry, I still like bringing that up because.
What was funny?
I was a Megadeth guy.
What was funny that like in '92, like in the it was the next time they were nominated.
Yeah.
Was when the Black Album, quote unquote, Black Album came out.
The Bob Rock Compression album.
And one of like they're giving all of the, and what was so great about them accepting was that they kind of like there was a lot of backhanded compliments in that. They thanked MTV and rock radio because without them they made it anyway. And that kind of stuff. But then it came down to it, and they were like, and the most important thing, we have to thank Jethro Tull for not putting out an album this year.
Yeah.
It's that kind of stuff. It was just like, eh. But the thing is with the VMAs, like you had the classic. It was Tom Petty doing Free Fallin' with Axl Rose.
Yeah.
And not only that was Axl Rose, and it was also Izzy Stradlin played with the band, that kind of stuff. And of course, after that was over was whenever they got in a fight with Motley Crue backstage. Yeah. And, it's like there was all this stuff that was going, what's his name got banned from the awards, Andrew Dice Clay for doing his dirty nursery rhymes, and I mean,
no censoring.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that we come to school the next day talking about all this stuff. It was. I know, and Aerosmith. I remember like them doing. It was Love in an Elevator. That was really like it was a really good performance that they did. And Arsenio Hall, like I think he hosted three or four of them in a row.
The Arsenio Hall shows were good.
Yeah, and of course
Cyndi Lauper coming on and doing some stuff.
This is when Hammer was really starting to, and like whether or not,
Hammer put on a show.
Dude, they put on a show whenever they would step on stage, and I mean, it was just a great, like, even a lot of the bands I didn't really care for, I still enjoyed because there was always a spectacle. It was always a spectacle of something, and it got a little more. I say cinematic as time went on. You get these bigger and bigger stuff. Eventually you got into the Britney Spears, doing all of her crap.
The bands that just came out and just tried to blow the roof.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some of them were good. So there was there's a performance from the 2000 VMAs. Of course, I wasn't in school at the time, but it reminds me we're getting in all kinds of stuff here now. But it was Christina Aguilera. And this is like when she first kind of hit,
What, the Genie in the Bottle thing?
No. Well, she came out and she did her single that was out at the time was All I Want to Do. Okay. Or All I Want Is You or whatever it is, And like she did the song and they kind of like got to the end of it and then like this beat started, like it was a drum beat, like this real blah, blah, blah. And then Fred Durst came up on stage and did Life in the Fast Lane, like with them. It's just like this whole thing. It's like completely different than what we just saw, and type stuff. But that also started the whole like. That was whenever he got some flack for that, and then he was like, "Oh, I only did it because I only did it for the nookie or something," and that started all. And then Eminem came out with his, his whole deal, with Real Slim Shady, accusing her of stuff, and it was just like, okay, this has gotten ridiculous now, But it was still one of those things like you didn't expect that.
Yeah.
You don't expect Christina Aguilera to come out and do one of her little pop songs that she was doing at the time, and then all of a sudden Fred Durst comes up and
does bro
his
metal
stuff.
all over the stuff.
So I mean, it's just like it's you would see stuff like that. It was just like, oh, this is kind of cool. Again, that's the same with Britney Spears. All of a sudden like stripped off her clothes, and did the "Oops, I Did It Again" that made her Britney Spears, and it was just kind of one of those like, oh, okay, I see what this is now. All this has become is just a way to make your career bigger. Whereas prior to that,
well, no, know who started that?
Who?
Madonna.
Oh yeah,
with the Like a Virgin,
Like a Virgin, yeah.
Her Like a Virgin performance on the VMAs.
Right, that's true. But it was funny.
The rest
because,
of them
like,
were just wannabes.
It was funny
they
because
were following a model.
It was funny because like the origins of MTV Unplugged started there because John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora did an unplugged version of
Wanted Dead or
Alive, and somebody was like, "That's an interesting idea. Maybe we can make a show out of this."
Yeah.
And they did.
Which was one of the Unplugged was one of the best shows on MTV.
It was for a long time. Anyways, again, I always associate the back to school because that was part of the. Oh, as a teenager, you're talking about this stuff that happened. I'm sure it still happens. I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched the VMAs in years, and the last time I did.
How long's MTV been on the air now?
Next year will be 40 years.
Yeah, we should celebrate that 14 years of great music.
Yeah. I know. You've used that joke so many times.
Well, it's not really a joke. I really mean it.
But it's one of those things that that was part of back to school.
Yeah,
was the VMAs are going to happen, and everybody's going to be talking about it for weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I said, new albums coming out. I remember very distinctly the year like in '91 when I started my senior year of high school.
Yeah,
3 albums came out. Like actually, I think 4 albums came out. Bang, 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 bang. Of oh my God, this is amazing. It was Skid Row's "Slave to the Grind."
Yeah.
Van Halen's "For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge."
Yeah.
Metallica's "Metallica," the Black Album.
And
then the "Use Your Illusions" 1 and 2 came out.
Yeah.
All of those came out within a very short time of each other, and then Nirvana's "Nevermind" came out, but it didn't catch for a few months, and it was because it came out in like September or something like that, but it wasn't until like the end of the year that it really caught, and then all of a sudden
it was kind of like in October, 1st of November, because I remember it really kind of blowing
into
up.
the holidays season, and of course during that time you also had Bad Motor Finger was released, and
which is from that album back is my favorite Soundgarden stuff. But that Bad Motor Finger album,
right? And so all of that stuff, that was my senior year of high school. There you go. Here's all the albums, and then but and again, all released around. Bad Motor Finger was a little later, but it was one of those. All those were released in that full. I think it came out in like November or something like that.
I'm pulling out the Magic Witch Box.
So,
keep talking.
But that type, you have those again. You go back to I always the music from Permanent Vacation.
Aerosmith,
very like again, Loving an Elevator and Dude Looks Like a Lady, that kind of stuff. I have a lot of back to school memories with that stuff because it was released, during that time period. Now, once we got into college, things were a little different.
September 24th, 91 was when Bad Motor Finger came out.
I guess it was. So it's still.
It was one of those bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. So it was one of those. When I got into college, I talked about this before. I didn't go straight into college. I missed that first fall semester.
Yeah.
And so the next year, I already had a semester under my belt from the spring semester.
Yeah.
Came back in, and it was like, oh wow, this is a whole different feel. It still feels like back to school.
Yeah.
But
it's a better feel.
It's a much better feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
when I got to college, I had to take a bunch of classes that I didn't want to take because it was the general ed stuff. Mm-hmm. But when I got over into the classes of the stuff that I was really interested in, that's kind of where my focus changed.
Right. But the college back to school is so different.
Yeah.
And especially on a big campus, because you got football on top of it, and it's one of those things that and I'm here to tell you, I know you grew up, in Big Ten country, but you lived in Big Ten country.
I lived in Big Ten country. I was raised on SEC.
Okay. As you were saying, there is nothing like a college campus on game day in the SEC.
Yeah. And we're from Kentucky.
Right.
I was raised on University of Kentucky football, basketball, all of it. Our football team sucked. And it's improving. It's improving. But that's a basketball school,
right? It's. I grew up going to Vandy games, and there's no excuse for anything there. So I mean, it's. The football team sucked. The basketball team sucked. It was
they had a decent.
They've had some ups and downs.
What was his name? The coach.
Oh,
I can't think of his name. They had a good coach, and for a while
Eddie Fogler was there for a while.
Fogler's okay.
He was all right, yeah.
But at one point they had a respectable basketball team. Right. You could respect what they were trying to do.
Right.
They just couldn't get any backing.
Right.
But I was raised on SEC sports. I may have had to have lived in the Yankee states, but I was raised Southern.
Yeah, we got Jerry Stackhouse now as a coach. Vandy does. So. Got Scottie Pippen's kid to play for him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
We'll
see what happens.
Honestly, I worked for Vanderbilt for a little while on their Jumbotron crew.
Oh, okay.
Running audio and video playback
nice.
And some other things. That was one of the first jobs I had when I moved back to Nashville.
Nice.
That was the gig that afforded me to be able to run in-house audio for that HBO boxing match stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I got to run audio for... what's his name? Are you ready to rumble?
Oh yeah. If you hadn't said anything,
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Both he and his brother were announcing that night, and I got to run audio for both of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot remember his name now. Anyway, but college back to school.
Yeah.
Was always because it was, again, you're on campus.
Yeah.
There's a new crop of freshmen coming in every year.
References
freshman girls coming in. I know it's
references to Dazed and Confused already.
Kind of, but when you're in that age range, though, it's not that big a deal. But it was just kind of. It wasn't even just that. It was just there's just something about it.
Yeah.
There's no feeling like stepping foot on campus
because
back to school.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go to class
first couple weeks,
but you're gonna run into your friends, and you're gonna end up sitting around out on the quad somewhere,
right,
talking, probably playing music.
Oh yeah, I did that all. I used to take my guitar all the time, and a bunch of us would sit out there and just between classes and stuff.
Yeah,
and
hop in the Jeep, pull the top off, go to lunch.
Yeah,
or skip the afternoon classes.
Completely afternoon classes. Now one of the things I got involved in theater. At one point, and that was a lot of fun. Being in the actual theater, like the building itself. A lot at night. After most classes were over. Or at least the night classes might have been going on, but they were few and far between. And doing that kind of stuff, and that was a lot of fun.
See, for me, it was the college radio station,
and then there was a radio station. When I got involved in radio, that was a whole different thing as well. And it just. College is so different than high school and everything else.
Yeah.
I miss that a lot.
Even when I finally graduated from there and then went on to Western Kentucky, as a non-traditional student, I was older. even being on campus as a non-traditional and living, I didn't live on campus. I lived off campus at an apartment, but it wasn't that far from school.
So it was practically on campus.
Dude, I was always up there. I was always in the mix somewhere.
Right.
You know, we were going to football games, basketball games. I kind of got halfway adopted by one of the sororities.
The sorority, huh?
Yeah.
So you had a bunch of sisters, huh?
Yeah. It was kind of fun. They're like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And, you know, and I was dating the wife at the time. And so I was non-threatening. So
yeah, that's a, yeah. I remember I was a member of course, I went to the community college, and they had it was called a fraternity, but it was a business fraternity.
Yeah,
and the one that I was in was in Delta Psi Omega, which if you went to a 4-year college, it's Alpha Psi Omega, which is basically it's a theater and music. Well, it's not as much music because there's actually a music fraternity as well, but it was a theater fraternity. And I was there in both times that we got suspended. And
why does that not surprise me?
We didn't even have a house or anything. It was just we got suspended for 2 different semesters. Alcohol was involved in one of them.
Of course.
Yeah, alcohol was involved in one of them, and I forget what happened the other time.
I was part of the broadcasting fraternity.
Right.
Alpha Sigma Iota.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. And at one point we got busted, and it was based off of complete total crap and lies by one of the members that we were in the process of outing because he was a big fat jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it.
Yeah. Is that whenever there were accusations of hazing?
Yeah.
And there
was no hazing.
There was no hazing. It's
yeah, if anything, it was bad Halloween party tricks.
I know. Yeah, I know. It
was garbage.
But yeah,
this is a guy that almost got me kicked off the air because I needed somebody to cover a shift because I had a family issue that I had to take care of, and then he didn't show up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I can see that. So, it's been really. I mean, of course, now you're in a different spot with back to school.
Yeah.
You don't really get a back to school. You're kind of
no. I'm always at school. But the summers are. They're built towards building towards getting everybody back on campus, getting things up and running. Mm-hmm. And the first 2 weeks of classes are very, very hectic because you've got the professors that have always been there.
Right.
And then you've got a brand new, fresh set of adjuncts that you've got to teach how to use all the equipment. And people get frustrated. I'm the one guy who does what I do for 6, about to be 7 campuses.
Right.
And, sometimes it takes a little time to get from classroom to classroom to fix stuff. And people get frustrated and they go, well, I've got one of these at home. So they just rewire everything in the car.
Oh, fun.
Which, of course, causes problems
when
later
you're trying to work on stuff later. Why is this like this? Yeah, I get
and on top of it, I'm in the middle of budget cycle and budget revisions.
Well,
and getting ready to do major upgrades and replacements and fix stuff over Christmas break because once school starts, I'm thinking about Christmas break because that's my next, big break when everybody's off campus to where I can start working and repairing and all that again.
Right.
And on top of it, I'm taking classes myself. So
that's true. You're a student again. Kind
of. I was in school for so long that I ended up institutionalized. So I'm now working at a college and taking classes again.
I went to Ball State so much that I was just hoping one of these semesters I'm going to walk on campus. They're like, look, we're just giving you an office. We'll call you student relations, and you just over here.
You and I single-handedly financed the library on campus.
Probably, to be honest. And but now I'm you're in a different situation. I'm in a different situation because I have kids.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for 10-ish years now. That was with my stepdaughter and then with my son also.
Yeah.
And it's different.
And you're in a bad spot because everything you're doing is virtual right now. Oh. It's not a bad spot.
Again, I know we talked about it. It's
a different spot.
Tough because my son is in first grade now.
Yeah.
And first graders are not built for virtual learning.
No.
And so it's kind of one of those things, here they've talked about potentially going back to classrooms, like it was after Labor Day. They're saying that might be the earliest that it will happen, and I'm going, yeah, but what about the 4 weeks prior to that? Because this is just from 2 days of this so far. He's been 3 days, but he's been with me 2 days and one with his mom. Just the 2 days I've had him of doing this, I'm going, there is no way. There is no way.
Are you having him do it on the laptop? Mm-hmm. Try hooking your laptop up to the TV and see if
he won't do it.
He won't do it.
I can't get him to sit down and watch TV.
Really?
No. I can get him to watch on the, he'll watch stuff on the iPad, but I can't get him to watch it on television for anything.
Why don't you try his classes on the iPad?
I thought about that. I probably need to try that just to see if that might work a little better.
Because if I remember right, he likes to move around and change.
Can't stand still. He cannot sit still.
At least with the iPad, he'd be able to walk around and change places and all that.
Right, but that's kind of, they want him to sit still, and that's the other thing.
That's the other thing. You've got a lot of teachers that are expecting virtual learning to be exactly like classroom learning.
Nothing like it whatsoever.
They're gonna have to loosen up on some of their stuff. Like I saw one school, there's like, okay, when you're in virtual class, there's no eating or drinking, and there's no moving around, and there's no doing this. And
again, try to get a first grader to do that. That's
try to get a college kid to do that. I mean, I took my last class. Mm-hmm. The last half of it was virtual, and everybody in the virtual meeting was, half of them were in their pajamas, half of them were doing it on the couch. We were eating lunch, we were drinking coffee.
If I were to, this is the same thing. I would be sitting here with, just surrounded by stuff.
Yeah. Well, I saw one ridiculous news story where the teacher called the cops on the parents because there was a knife block behind them in the video, and it was a threatening learning situation. And I'm like,
there's always some idiot that wants to do something.
They really shouldn't call common sense common.
Yeah, it's not. It seems like it's not anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we've kind of run our course on this one. I mean, it's outside of just getting into some very specific stuff, of stories of back to school and everything. Moving around, going back
to school was always weird.
Oh, I bet.
Because like I said, we moved, our classes would stop,
and then
we were gone.
Right.
And so the whole summer, you didn't have any friends. You had to hang out with your family,
right?
Because there was nobody else to hang out
Nobody
with.
wants to do that.
And you're not of an age to where you can just get on your bike or get a car and just take off.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have to go and make new friends. And when we did that in Michigan, the second year I had a group of friends, now none of which I can remember their name at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's been a lot of years ago.
Then we moved again.
Right.
Classes stopped. I moved again.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to start this process all over again in Illinois, which, we talked about it. We had to stay in the hotel the entire summer in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Started, got friends. The way the school system in Illinois worked is there was Northside Elementary, Westside Elementary, Southside Elementary, Eastside Elementary. For some reason, my sisters went to a different elementary school than I did. Even though
you're all in the same house. That doesn't make any sense.
I ended up at Southside, and they ended up at Eastside, Westside. I forget which one. I was at Southside.
Yeah,
and we were there, and we made friends, and then we got moved to the junior high school. So there was a group of us that went from the elementary school over to the junior high school, and we got blended in with all the other elementary schools.
Right.
So now you've got 2 or 3 friends, and now you're having to make all these other friends again.
Right.
And did junior high there, part of high school there, and then summer rolls around, and we moved again.
Dang.
And at this point, luckily, I had my license.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Had my license. We moved to town. The first Friday night that rolled around, I looked at Dad and said, I want the truck.
Yeah.
And he was like, here's the keys. Didn't know anybody, but I knew there was a mall.
Right.
And so I hopped in the truck and went to Rivergate Mall and cruised.
Yeah. And I was going to say, that's another thing with back to school.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday nights at the mall.
At the mall.
Whether it was cruising or walking around inside or whatever. Yeah. And it was that you would maybe run into somebody during the, but I'll be honest, like I wasn't a, let's go to the mall person, necessarily.
I didn't give a crap about the mall. I wanted to go drive around and listen to music and hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
And when I finally got my car, and it was my second car, Friday nights were or Friday days, immediately after you get out of school,
right,
go home, wash the car, wax the car, get the car looking the best,
right,
and then you were headed to the cruise route. And loud music, car, CB. Had CB in the car, so you could find your friends, because no cell phones.
There were no cell phones back then.
At one point, there was a pager, but then you had to go
find a payphone.
You had to go find a payphone, and you hope you had 50 cents to make the call.
Hey, it wasn't quite 50 cents then. You got into a quarter at that point.
It was. I remember it was a quarter. It was a quarter when I moved to town.
It started out as a dime. It was a dime forever, and then it moved to a quarter in the very early 90s.
Yeah.
Like in 89 or 90 or something like that.
By 93, it was 50 cents.
Really? It had gone up that much already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I know that it moved to 50 cents eventually.
Yeah. So. But, a lot of us, somebody said, well, how are we supposed to find each other? I was like, my dad's always run CBs. Let's just put CB. And we all went up to Radio Shack.
Yeah.
And got CBs and antennas and put them in the cars, so you could, you'd talk to each other and find each other.
Oh, there you go.
There were nights that, I'd just sit out in the driveway and talk to people.
Oh, there you go. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was never quite that nerdy, so it was.
I grew up with them, though.
Admittedly,
Dad had CBs.
I was nerdy. I mean, a lot of me was sitting at home playing video games on Friday night or Saturday or something.
And I grew up with them. Dad had a CB back when you still had to have a license to run a CB. So
cool.
Yeah, that was one of the games we'd do. We'd play Fox Hunt with CBs. One person would go with their car and they would hide, and you would run them down by watching how strong their signal strength was coming back on your meter. It was basically a big game of hide and seek, but with CB radios.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Back to school, man. Like I said, this time of year, I got in touch with you a couple days ago. Said something about, hey, it kind of felt like fall today, you know, and it did up until today. And all of a sudden it turned to be 90 again.
For you, it felt like fall. For me, it wasn't. It wasn't until, let's see here.
I know it was the next when you did a couple days later, you were like, okay, it feels like fall today, and it was like, yeah, it really has. I've been this week.
Last Saturday.
Yeah, I've been this week out quite a bit in the yard because of my parents had a tree fall at their house.
Oh no!
So we've been. It didn't fall it just fell in the yard.
Okay.
So it was one of those things that we've been out there with a chainsaw.
What kind of wood was it?
Oh, it's beautiful wood, man. It was a red oak.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So it's nice. And matter of fact, I've got to go pick up some tomorrow. I'm going to bring it over here to burn the fireplace this year because it's going to smell wonderful.
Nice. So, how much of it you got?
A lot.
Dude, I'm coming to get some.
Yeah, that would be no problem. We've got a ton. This was a big tree that fell.
Okay.
So, but yeah. Anyways, now that we've really gotten off topic and we're just talking. Anyways,
just two dudes sitting around talking about wood.
That's terrible. Anyway, so thanks for listening. You can find us on any of the
Let's start it this way. Tell them about the new hub.
All right, we have a new hub, which is caffeineandsleepingpills.com. I'll have a link in the description.
Yep.
That is the hub where you will be able to find
this is going to be our
episodes.
New media hub for all things podcast, articles,
all kinds of video. We're working on all kinds of stuff.
We're trying to turn it into a broadcast media company,
something like that. So probably what we're going to turn it into is a really expensive hobby that and
next up, Patreon.
Yeah, well, not with what's going on with them right now. So that's something to talk about when we cut the mics off. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I haven't heard.
So anyway,
but Facebook, Twitter,
Instagram, Parler, and FYI, Parler is not some far right website.
No,
it's just another media outlet.
Another social media site that it's like a clunky Twitter, but they're working on it.
They're working on it.
But the difference is they're not going around censoring everybody.
Exactly, and we are anti-censorship here.
Yeah.
Across the boards, no matter who you are.
In fact, the folks that own Parler are trying to start evening things out because they've got a bounty for
trying to get some more liberals. I know.
So it's. Don't think of it as a political social media site because it's not. It's just another social media tool that you can use to do with it what you choose.
Exactly. And maybe one of these days we'll get on MySpace and We're going to try to like get on all that. See if we can get on MySpace.
Wait,
and
is
Friendster.
It still around?
MySpace is still around as far as I know. Trying to see if we can get on Friendster.
I don't have any of my HTTP.
See, what else do we?
Or HTML.
LiveJournal and
no TikTok. No TikTok.
Well, TikTok's getting ready to go away, so it's anyway. But yeah, you can find us on all of those. Tumblr is another one we need to get on. That is projectgenx pod. That's our handle on all of that stuff. Yep. You can, and literally you can go to on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/projectgenxpod.
Yeah.
projectgenx pod, and you can get us there.
Yeah.
So
our email is
projectgenxpod@gmail.com. Tell us about your back to school experiences, like what you remember fondly about it, because we love to hear from you guys, and we might even read your emails on the air. We're threatening you. We will read your emails.
We'll read your emails and comments and everything else on the air. If you'll just talk to us,
right? Yeah.
Please. We're
but
lovely.
Definitely go and check out caffeineandsleepingpills.com. Like I said, that's kind of our hub. That's going to be our hub of stuff, and you can like and comment and all that kind of stuff there as well.
Yep.
If you would give us a review on whatever podcatcher you're on.
Please give us a review.
Apple Podcast helps because they're kind of the industry standard when it comes to it. So the higher visibility that we get through ratings and that kind of stuff gets us more publicity, but not really publicity. It gets us more exposure.
More exposure.
And we all want to expose ourselves here, so it's
Wow, circling back around to that conversation about wood again.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, thanks a lot for spending time with us. I am Alan Smith.
I'm the resident fat guy, Big Dave.
And we will see you next time.
See ya.
Back to school, huh? I've had that song stuck in my head for days. That, doesn't matter what they say, or the silly games people play. Alex the Seal. You know that song by the Go-Go's, Alex the Seal?
You mean Our Lips Are Sealed?
No, it's Alex the Seal. Just like Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza, it's...
It's like...